People should be able to retain as much of the money that they earn as possible. And just because you make more money, it's not fair for you to have to give more of it to the government.
Fundamentally different question of whether or not taxes are bad.
So you would say that like police brutality is not a major issue affecting black people in America?
Nowhere near as much as I think people would say it is. Yeah.
Would you say that abortion is overhyped on the conservative side?
I think abortion is a hard one because I think people can come down on a very strong moral stance on that. If you think it's legitimately killing kids, then that's a pretty rough one.
Wait, so it's not legitimate kids?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say so, obviously.
White supremacy is no longer a major issue affecting the black community in America today. We have a country now that is probably one of the best countries on the planet to be a black person. We also have organizations like the Ku Klux Klan. They're obsolete. They no longer have serious membership. They are not to be taken seriously. We have one of the best countries on the planet to be a black person. And there's more opportunities in America for African Americans than any other country right now on the planet for black people. And that's why they continue to move here from Africa. That's why the black population continues to rise. And the biggest issue affecting the black community in America today is their own culture and not white supremacy.
Unfortunately, I think we probably are going to have a lot of overlap here, I think, in terms of what we agree on. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that America's a horrible place to live in if you're a minority or whatever. I think that's a little silly sometimes. I would argue that there are a lot of, if you're arguing there are cultural issues, it's not necessarily wrong, but I would say you could probably trace a lot of that back to, like actual racist stuff in the United States that was kind of the most. So, like, for instance, like adversarial relationships with cops based on where you live, things like redlining, like policies of lending money or not to people based on race, like stuff like that, I think can filter down to how communities today express themselves. So like it's stuff that needs to be addressed, but I don't know if I would say we're like a white supremacist country. That's not like a position that I personally have.
So do you believe that over-policing is an issue in the black community?
Maybe a little bit, but I think it's largely overblown. I think it's largely overblown. I'm not going to have, we're probably not super far apart. I don't have like an ultra-progressive stance, I think, when it comes to like white supremacy or anything like that.
And when you were speaking of like major issues, do you think that there are negative things within black culture that are affecting that relationship? For example, this constant projection of how people tell people to interact with the police that is completely counterintuitive to how a logical person would interact with the police. Things like never speak to the police, no snitching, all of those things allow more crime in your community and they do not build up your community.
Yeah, I mean, I think those things can definitely be negative. I think most of that advice is pretty cringe. I mean, I would say on the conservative side, there's a lot of cringe stuff when it comes to how they view like our intelligence agencies and stuff like that. Like, I think everybody kind of plays into their own political stereotypes when they're giving advice on how to deal with different agencies. I think a lot of the advice given about like if you get pulled over by a cop, you're gonna get killed or whatever, I think is kind of stupid. Yeah.
So you would say that like police brutality is not a major issue affecting black people in America?
Nowhere near as much as I think people would say it is. Yeah.
Well,
that's
yeah. Would you?
But I would also say, like, I guess, like on the flip side, I would say things like illegal immigration are massively overhyped on the conservative side, or things like transports are massively overhyped on the conservative side, such that they will try to make these like singular focal points for elections, and then as soon as they're elected, they don't really do anything substantive to address a lot of the major issues related to it. I kind of gave two topics there.
Would you say that abortion is overhyped on the conservative side?
I think abortion is a hard one because I think people can come down on a very strong moral stance on that. Like, if you think it's legitimately killing kids, then that's a pretty rough one.
Wait, so it's not legitimately killing kids?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say so, obviously. But because if I did, I'd probably be anti-abortion completely, yeah.
So, explain to me how it's not.
Well, I mean, for an abortion position, I would say that the experience that we're trying to protect is the kind of the conscious experience that we have as humans, and that if that hasn't emerged yet, or it's not like a thing, you're not really killing a person to speak of. Just a thing that has to develop the capacity for that, I guess, like human sentience yet.
So wait, are we arguing that they are not a person, or are we arguing that they're not human?
I guess not a person. I mean, human is kind of whatever, like, is a finger human? It kind of is, but, I mean...
Is a baby human?
A baby? I would say, yeah, probably, yeah.
So killing a baby would be killing a human?
Probably, yeah, but baby is generally defined as, yeah, things that are born from the ages of 0 to 1 or 2, I guess, yeah.
Okay, so at what point do you think a person is a baby, or a baby becomes a person, I guess?
I think it depends on what you read, but anywhere from like 16 to 24 weeks when you have like all of the brain parts in place to begin to deploy like a conscious experience. So like that thing that where we can say what it's like to be I think at that point, I think there's probably an experience there worth protecting. So sometime like in the second trimester, I guess.
Right, but a baby doesn't know what it's like to be. What's your earliest memory? I can promise you it's not 20 weeks gestation.
No, but I think we can say pretty safely that babies probably know what it's like to experience things. It seems like they have all the parts in place to experience things.
So you would say you're pro-life at 20 weeks or 16 weeks?
I guess, but I mean, most people would probably say it's pro-choice for the first or part of the second trimester.
But would you say that it's wrong for someone to abort a 16-week,
Once you kind
16-week-old
of
baby?
yeah, so like 24 weeks probably for sure.
For convenience, for abortion.
For any reason.
For any reason, you would say it's wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess our disagreement's going to come with. I believe that it's wrong to abort a baby at any age, at any period of gestation, because I believe that we have a moral obligation to protect human life under almost all circumstances. I think once someone starts taking other people's human life, then their human life is no longer worthy of protecting.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I understand that. I just think it comes down to when you define, I guess, like the start of a human life and the end of a human life.
All right, so I'm going to ask probably a dumb question. Do you think there's something we would disagree on more so we can actually debate?
I mean, I think the first, however long we are into this Trump term, I think he's been a disaster in almost every conceivable way. Him going to like Russia, Ukraine, I think he's been a disaster there. The whole tariff trade scheme has been disastrous, I think.
So let's go to the principle of a tariff. Do you believe that a reciprocal tariff is a good idea or a bad idea?
I think it can be a good idea, but none of the tariffs we did were reciprocal. They were calculated entirely arbitrarily, so we can't start the conversation, I think.
So you think that they should have been reciprocal?
I mean, to say reciprocal tariff is a bit...
So do you think that we should be paying, that other countries should be paying us what we pay them?
Probably about that, yeah.
So you think that's fair?
Generally speaking...
So generally speaking, you are pro-tariff?
Not, I wouldn't say tariff, like generally the way that these things appear aren't just going to be like a straight tariff. It might be like a government subsidizes some local industry, or they have some other competitive advantage that they get through some government actions or some non-competitive things. Not usually going to be like a straight tariff, you know. But like those are things to take down. Those you have to do these as part of like complicated and sophisticated trade deals, like we had with Mexico and Canada. But apparently Trump wasn't happy with those trade deals, and we blew it all up for just flat tariffs, which I don't think are like you can overcome a tariff with government subsidy you really want, and that doesn't even ensure fairness there. So.
Okay, I actually just thought of something I'm pretty sure we're going to do here. I think that it was good that Trump brought a tax cut to people making over $600,000 a year because of the high percentage in taxes people that earn that dollar amount pay. And I think our tax system currently in the United States is unfair. I think if someone making $15,000 a year pays a 10% tax, then someone making $1 million a year should pay a 10% tax. That's a fair tax across the board. What do you say?
Well, I feel like the 10% of the money on the person making $15,000 a year is going to meaningfully and dramatically impact his life. The 10% on a person making $1 million a year might not even notice it. So I think that there's a big difference there. The reason why we have a progressive tax system is because people that are making kind of a certain amount of money, consumption doesn't usually scale 1-to-1. Like a guy making $1 million doesn't consume 100 times more than a guy making $10,000. So even if you have the same percentage tax, of course, the guy.
Yes, they do.
What?
Yes, they do.
I don't think so.
Okay, how many people do you know that make $10,000 a year that are hiring a person to clean their house, a person to detail their car, a person to do their lawn care, a person to do their service their air conditioning? If they have multiple cars, you see, when I was making $9,000 a year, I wasn't consuming very much. When I made my first $1 million, I was consuming a lot, and I was employing a lot of other people. And my effect on society changed dramatically to the point where if you have half a dozen people that rely on you for their wages, it's going to change drastically. It's going to change drastically how you affect society. Somebody that has 5, 6, 7, 8 families eating off of that salary because of they're able to make that much money, it's monumentally better for society for them to have more of their money, because fundamentally taxes are the government taking your money. It's better when the government takes less of your money. Would you agree?
Not necessarily, but
Why
also
not
necessarily.
necessarily?
First, there's something consumption.
What does the government do better than the private?
With the okay, I think the issue is that like if you are incredibly wealthy, if you don't hire people, that's not taxable income anyway, right? That's going to be write-off. Whether you're flown through, whether you're going to.
No, you're going to pay payroll. You're going to pay payroll taxes on those people you hire.
You'll pay, I guess, their half of the payroll taxes, but none of the Trump tax cuts are reducing FICA anyway, so that's
Right, which is good. I believe that people should be able to retain as much of the money that they earn as possible. And just because you make more money, it's not fair for you to have to give more of it to the government.
Fundamentally different question on whether or not taxes are bad, which is what it sounds like you're arguing, versus are progressive tax brackets more fair than just flat tax brackets?
No.
Okay, well, they're two different questions, right? I think a progressive tax bracket is more fair. Do you agree that it would hurt somebody making $50,000 a year, losing $5,000, that's going to hurt them more than a person who makes $1 million a year, losing $100,000? Somebody makes $50,000 a year and you tax 10% of their income flat. You take $5,000 from somebody who's making $50,000 a year versus somebody making $1 million a year. If you take $100,000 from them, 10%, like one of these parties is probably going to be impacted a lot more.
No, because my observation has been, and I'm not saying this to pat myself on the back, but I've helped a lot of people in my life, and what I've learned is giving someone more money who is bad with money does not change their situation. If someone is homeless, most of the time they're homeless for a reason. And if you just handed them $100,000, they would be homeless again.
Isn't this an argument against tax expense? Shouldn't the government just take those spending it for them? They can't spend it technical pay?
No, because that's not their money. The government has an obligation to provide some services, like obviously like roads and stuff, but a perfect example would be everything that I know that the government runs terribly. If you get in line at the DMV, and you get in line at Chick-fil-A in the private sector, do you get your driver's license or your sandwich faster?
Well, one is a driver's license requiring a database of identities that are verified in order to be compliant with so much regulation.
They could have
just fast food.
No, they have no incentive to be excellent in service because they know you're going to use the service anyway.
Well, yeah, but you could vote out people or vote people in based on their ability to deliver basic social services.
You can't vote people out of the DMV.
You absolutely can. In fact,
how do you vote somebody out of the DMV? Do you know how hard it is to fire a government employee?
Well, if you vote somebody in differently, it's pretty easy. It's called an election.
Have you ever been in line at the post office and seen how unmotivated and lackadaisical the employees are versus in line at Chick-fil-A where they're like right on it?
Like I've been in line at the post office and I've seen tons of videos of FedEx and UPS drivers that are destroying packages.
Okay, destroying packages, but nobody ever accused UPS of being slow.
Well, it really depends on what you're shipping. I mean, the post office is not slow, right? You mail it
every government.
It takes them 2 days.
If I could find a government office that is currently being operated efficiently and well, I mean,
the problem is you have to compare like to like, right? The DMV is a place where you go for services that have to be rendered in a particular way.
Actually, I take back part of my statement. Here in Florida, we have for-profit DMVs. And the for-profit DMVs that you go to get paperwork done, they are fast because they have an incentive to be, because the more customers they serve, the more money they make, obviously. So I think, but then again, that would go back to what I was saying about something in the private sector being done better than the government. I think the government would be way better off if they subbed out things to the private sector at a higher rate, because when there is a profit motive and a profit incentive, things are done better.
I mean, things aren't done better. Things are just done to make more money, right?
No, things are done better.
It doesn't have to be better. If you find a way to cheat, or if you find a loophole, if you find some way to make more money that doesn't improve your actual customer service experience, but just makes you more money, then people could do that, no? If I had 100 people that come into my office and I find a way to 2x the cost, and I lose like 40% of my customers, that's a win for me. I would do that as a profit-seeking entity, but I'd be serving less people.
But the government has no incentive to be better on either of those.
The government does. It's called elections. We elect our officials. If they mess up too much, then they get voted out.
But we don't elect government processes like the wait times at the DMV.
Nobody's ever voted for a politician based on wait times at courthouses, or wait times at DMVs, or wait times at...
And did they change anything?
I'm sure in some local districts they are. I don't know every local district in the United States, but where do you think these people are hired from? Do you think they just like pick names out of a hat?
A lot of people don't even vote in most elections. People don't even know who their judges, who their districts. They don't know who anyone. People just look at the presidential election, and then sometimes like they know who their state rep is. But unfortunately, people are not involved enough in politics.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that there's an issue with like local politics is not very sexy. The national level stuff is like way more attractive. People like to pay attention to that.
But it affects you a lot. It affects you a lot more.
So I think there should be like more of a push for kind of like local involvement and everything. I agree with that.
I would agree with that as well. But do you think that the government needs to take over more services and the government needs to be running more things than they're currently running, or do you think more things should go to the private? Because I personally would go to a 10% sales tax, get rid of all other taxes, and make every road a toll road, because no one's avoided. If you have people dealing drugs in your community, they're not paying income tax. They're going to pay that toll if they have a license plate. And they're going to pay sales tax when they go buy something from the corner store. So I think that a the system that we have set up for taxation is disastrous, and I think the percentage of what they're taking.
What other country on the planet has a system like that?
What do you mean?
Where they only do like sales tax and no income tax or whatever.
Well, they don't, but they should. I'm saying it would
That's
be
for
better.
who? How do we even know that? It sounds like it would be worse if literally not a single other country's doing it, no?
Oh, because it would be sales tax would be an unavoidable tax. Everyone would pay it, even people doing illegal activities.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that maybe there are reasons why, like no other country on the planet employs that type of tax.
Oh, because they're collecting too much in income tax.
Do you think that every single service the government offers, like a private company could offer just as well? Like could administer like Social Security or...
Well, Social Security is a disaster in and of itself, but every single, how is it a disaster? We've got more people taking out of it than are paying into it.
Social Security is reliably paid out like since its inception, and it's done so like, what is it?
Is Social Security Social Security actually providing people with actual money they can live on? Who lives on $3,500 a month at 65 if they have a family?
First, well, if you're taking care of a family at 65 with just your Social Security check, there's a lot of things that's going wrong with that part. But Social Security is not supposed to be just for Social Security is not supposed to be just for sustaining somebody with no other income for the rest of their entire life. But like, you're getting $3,400 a month, that's enough to live on. At least you're not like out on the street because you're all needing to save for retirement.
Right, but if the government didn't take the money from you in the first place, then you could save for your own retirement.
Do you really think the people would do that?
I think the government could very easily, this is probably not a good argument for small government, the government could very easily take the money they would have spent on your Social Security and invest it for you at birth. They do put $10,000 into the market, and then at 65, they give you back the money that you earned from the interest. That would be a better system than the Social Security system we currently have.
All right, final statements. Oh,
Yeah, I mean, I disagree. I think that I don't think you want that money invested because the investment strategy that you're going to utilize in the future of your life, you want to be involved in risky investments when you're approaching retirement. You kind of want to. Social Security seems to work pretty well for what it does right now. Like it's incredibly popular. Most of the people defend it to their death. Even public want to mess with it. And I don't think it's fair to compare like private industry to government, and they offer like fundamentally different services. And then to say the government's inefficient when the private sector.
What's a private sector industry that the government? What's a government? What's a government entity that the private sector could not offer?
I mean, I would say like the deployment of military. It's kind of
I'll agree with you. Yeah, the military, but the military is heavily privatized. There's a lot of private companies that provide
technology for it.
provide weapons and equipment and stuff to the military.
you make me wrestle the mic out of your hands. All right.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Don't forget to take off your mic. Everyone clap. Yes. Thank you.